Finish what you start. Your brain is wired to chase closure. Every time you finish something, it can be anything, even something as small as completing one Duolingo lesson, learning 5 new vocabulary words, or finishing a single grammar exercise, you trigger a chemical reward, dopamine, that makes you feel good and urges your brain to do it again. That small burst is how momentum is built in your language journey. Most people never become fluent because they quit halfway, chasing easier pleasures that deliver quick hits of dopamine, like watching Netflix in their native language. The brain learns that staying in the comfort of your own language feels safer than the struggle of completion, and the cycle repeats. To your brain, it can do easier work, but still receive dopamine, so why would it even bother doing the harder but more beneficial task of learning? If you change your mindset, if you push through and close the loop, you're teaching yourself that effort pays off more than escape. Finishing becomes its own addiction. It doesn't have to be huge, just something with a clear end. Complete one short podcast episode or successfully review 10 flashcards. Every small win rewires the system in your brain. Over time, your brain stops craving the comfort of quitting and starts craving the satisfaction of being done. I bet a lot of you watching have started learning a language, maybe even multiple times, but never made it past the first few weeks. A decent amount of you are already gone. This just proves how the shiny promise of fluency isn't enough stimulation for your brain to want to continue the work. Take boring breaks. Most people sabotage their learning discipline in the moments they call rest. They study verb conjugations for 30 minutes, a mildly stimulating and mildly rewarding task, but then they take a break and flood their brain with hyperstimulation, scrolling through TikToks in their own language, playing a high-action video game, watching an exciting YouTuber. They do all of these things and then expect to return to their grammar lesson as if nothing happened. Your brain has now got a new baseline for dopamine. Remember, dopamine is the chemical that causes motivation. So now, your brain will only be motivated to do things that release as much dopamine as scrolling or gaming. Good luck finding the motivation to learn German cases when they can't compete with that. The next lesson can't compete with the thrill you just gave yourself, so you start to avoid it. The fix isn't removing breaks. You want to change how you spend them. Let your rest be boring but language-themed. Walk around your room and name objects in Spanish. Listen passively to a French song without the pressure of understanding it. Give your mind space to breathe instead of drowning it in easy content. When your downtime stops spiking your senses, returning to the effort of learning feels natural again. You may even be motivated to get back to it. Do one thing at a time. Your brain isn't built for multitasking. Every time you switch tasks, glancing at a notification while listening to a podcast, trying to watch a movie in your target language while scrolling on your phone, flipping between your flashcard app and social media, you force your mind to restart the focus process from zero. That restart costs time, but more importantly, it kills momentum. This relates back to the point I just made. Finish what you start. Multitasking feels productive because you're busy, but cognitively, your learning is suffering. Your attention is split, and being able to achieve deep immersion becomes impossible. The fix is very simple, but it's not easy. When you listen to a podcast, just listen. Put your phone away. When you study grammar, close all other tabs. Don't try to merge everything into one endless stream of half-focus. Single tasking rebuilds the mental pathways that let you drop into flow, that rare zone where time disappears and you're fully immersed in the language. That is the optimal state for learning, and cannot be achieved when you're half listening to a lesson while planning your weekend.
The 2-minute rule, starting is always the hardest, the most intimidating part of language learning. Your brain exaggerates how painful a task will be. It tells you grammar is too confusing, that you'll never remember all that vocabulary. So it talks you into waiting for motivation, forcing you to procrastinate. The fix to this is super simple. Lower the entry cost. Tell yourself you'll just do it for 2 minutes. Learn one new vocabulary word. Do 5 flashcards on Anki. Listen to the first minute of a podcast. That tiny action tricks your brain into crossing the line between thinking and doing. Once you've started something, the resistance to that task disappears and momentum takes over. Most of the time, you'll end up going longer without even noticing. You don't need to commit to a full hour. Just the first step. This isn't about becoming fluent overnight. It's about proving to your brain that learning isn't dangerous. Once you start, it's really easy to keep going.
Cut cheap dopamine. I know most of you watching won't cut out all cheap dopamine, so I've got something in the next point if that is you. But if you are willing to cut out all forms of cheap dopamine, your brain will rewire very quickly, and you will nearly instantly crave the challenge of language learning. Think about it logically. You remove any and all things that give you cheap dopamine, then the only way your brain can possibly get dopamine is through doing something hard, like finally understanding a difficult grammar rule or having a successful conversation. But for most people, they don't want to completely get rid of all of those things. So here's something else you can do. Dopamine loading. Every day you wake up, your dopamine levels have generally reset. The same goes for your dopamine baseline. This can be used to your advantage, but most learners use it to their disadvantage. The second they wake up, they hop straight onto TikTok or Instagram, doom scrolling in bed, which, as you know by now, is a massive dopamine spike. But they then get up and try to study Japanese kanji, or French verb conjugations, which won't release anywhere near as much dopamine. Your brain wants to keep increasing the levels it's releasing, and the hard, boring work of memorizing vocabulary just doesn't compete. This makes it very difficult to actually get the learning done. You will feel bored, annoyed, and won't be able to hold your focus for very long at all. Here's how you can actually use it to your advantage. When you wake up in the morning, you need to focus on your language learning rather than things that release a lot of dopamine. Wake up, have a shower, and get straight into your flashcard reviews. As the day goes on, maintain this state of low dopamine. Once you reach the end of your work, then you can start loading in all of the high dopamine, low effort tasks, like scrolling social media or watching shows in your native language. If that was difficult to understand, you want to do the tasks in your day starting from low dopamine releasing tasks and moving up into high dopamine releasing tasks. That way, your baseline for motivation will not drop throughout the entire day. Adopting a growth mindset. Most people learn a language for some outcome that comes once they are fluent. Maybe it's a better job or the ability to travel, which is great, perfectly fine. But learning a language only for the sake of a reward that comes after can make the daily practice feel like a painful chore, deterring you from wanting to do it again in the future. Switch your view to a growth mindset. This is where you strive to be better, rewarding the hard work and effort you put in along the way, rather than just the final outcome of fluency. You see the hard work of figuring out a grammar rule as something that is great, even though it may feel bad in the moment. Being able to do this simple mindset switch allows your brain to release dopamine when you're experiencing a challenge, which is impossible when you are only focused on the goal at the end. When you are able to attach pain, mistakes, and friction to an internal reward system, even if it's just being proud of yourself for trying, you will start to access the dopamine release during the actual study session, not just after. This not only makes the learning more enjoyable, you actually make it less painful, you become more efficient, and you make yourself more likely to show up again tomorrow. So, when you're struggling with a new concept, be happy that it is hard and keep going. The struggle is where you find the biggest rewards. Dopamine stacking. Most learners don't realize how much they overload their brain's reward system. Some people may think that listening to loud, exciting music while doing their flashcards is amazing for them. And while it may help you get through that specific session, this is called dopamine stacking, where you stack multiple dopamine-releasing activities on top of each other. While it may help during the exact task, afterwards you will have a dip in your dopamine baseline. Not only that, if you ever try to do your flashcards in silence, you will be much less inclined to actually do the hard work, because your brain won't have that extra dopamine it now expects. Now, this can be a good thing. You can stack a task that releases dopamine, like sipping a nice coffee, at the same time you start a hard task you don't want to do, like grammar drills. You trick your brain into releasing dopamine and making you motivated. But dopamine stacking gets dangerous when people try to do a Duolingo lesson while a YouTube video plays in the background and they're eating junk food all at the same time, then wonder why they can't focus on a less stimulating task like reading a book. If that's you, avoid it if you want any chance at actually being able to learn.
Deliberately do hard things. Your brain only adapts when it's challenged. And every time you avoid something difficult, not trying to speak with a native, skipping the grammar you don't understand, always watching videos with subtitles in your own language, you teach your brain that comfort equals safety and discomfort equals danger. But your language ability learns from exposure, not avoidance. When you deliberately do something hard, you trigger a small stress response. Your heart rate rises, adrenaline spikes, but after you complete it, your body releases dopamine, a reward for overcoming that stress. Over time, your brain begins to associate effort with relief. That's the entire point of discipline, to make discomfort familiar. Force yourself to have a 2-minute conversation on HelloTalk, even if you're terrified. Turn off the subtitles. Tackle the grammar topic you've been avoiding. Every deliberate hardship tells your brain the same thing. We can handle this. And eventually, it stops resisting the struggle of learning. It actually chases it. Gamify hard work. This one might not work for everyone, but turning your language learning into a video game is a great way to make the hard work easier. Your brain loves games because games make effort visible. You can see progress, track streaks, and get rewarded for action, not just outcomes. You can see how this one links to the growth mindset section. Hard work, like getting fluent, often feels endless and abstract, so your brain doesn't know when to celebrate. But you can fix that. Use a habit tracker to build a study streak, and your only mission is to not break the chain. Assign yourself levels and missions instead of vague goals like get better at French. Mission, learn 20 food-related words. Mission, order a coffee in French. Each small win releases a burst of motivation, reminding your brain that progress feels good. The trick is to make the challenge hard enough to stay interesting, but achievable enough to stay rewarding. Work with other people. Hard work is contagious. Your brain mirrors the behavior of whoever it's around. This is a built-in system called social mirroring. If you spend time with people who focus deeply, delay comfort, and take pride in their language practice, your nervous system copies that rhythm. Without you realizing it, the opposite is true too. When you spend time around constant distraction and your brain normalizes avoidance, you will find it much harder to study. Working alongside others creates shared pressure, subtle accountability. There is a natural human desire not to look or feel lazy. If you sit in a Discord call with 3 friends who are all practicing their target languages, and you are just scrolling memes, you will feel lazy. Your body will naturally use this as motivation to do the hard work. Even silent co-studying changes your output, because your brain interprets other people's focus as a cue to do the same. Surround yourself with people who treat language learning seriously, and your brain will naturally start seeing practice as the price of belonging.
Dopamine detox. This buzzword has been spread across all social media, and most people probably don't know what it actually does for a language learner. The world is built so you can have a million forms of easy stimulation at your fingertips. A dopamine detox is a short reset. You're removing all artificial dopamine sources, junk food, scrolling, video games, so that your brain starts generating dopamine and motivation for natural sources, like making progress in your target language. The first few days will be excruciating. Your brain will be constantly searching for a quick hit. But once you manage to withhold, something clicks. Silence starts to feel nice instead of your brain panicking for stimulation. Your focus returns, and you start appreciating small things, like the rhythm of a new language. You reset your baseline for dopamine and rewire what your brain rewards you for, changing it from instant gratification to meaningful sources that will actually get you fluent. The one thing you cannot do is go straight back to all the artificial sources once you finish. That is the time for working on hard things. If there is only one thing that you learn from this video, let it be this. If you are trying to learn a language, make sure you do the hard practice before the easy entertainment, or you're going to make the hard thing even harder. Oh, and YouTube thinks that you will like this video here, so watch it now.